Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering woke panic as Super Bowl ads not diverse enough. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Coming from Ad Age, Super Bowl ads continue to lag in diversity. The majority of directors behind the 2024 big game commercials are white men, and there is a lack of authentic, diverse storytelling according to Ad Age's early analysis. Ad Age was created in 1930 to cover a burgeoning industry with objectivity, accuracy, and fairness. Ad Age continues to be powered by award-winning journalism. Today, Ad Age is a global media brand, focusing on curated creativity, data and analysis, people and culture, and innovation in forecasting. It covers the advertising industry. It's pretty much the standard in the advertising industry. So you think they would take themselves seriously, but they are not doing that. A 30-second commercial in the Super Bowl costs companies $7 million. So you want to keep in mind that companies are actually spending $7 million for a 30-second commercial. And the Ad Age people are worried not if this is going to be financially successful for the company, not if it effectively communicates the message that the company is trying to communicate to sell more of its product or service or establish their brand. No, their issue is, okay, but is it woke enough? Literally, that's what they're thinking. There are companies like Anheuser-Busch that are taking more than 30-second spots. They're desperate to try to save the Bud Light brand. But the question really for Ad Age is, yeah, but was your director white? I mean, if your director was white, how can you even excuse that? Super Bowl advertisers are once again lacking in bringing authentic, diverse storytelling to the big stage, despite continuing to make diversity, equity, and inclusion commitments. Maybe the problem is not that they're not bringing authentic, diverse storytelling to their ads. Maybe the problem is that they're making these diversity, equity, and inclusion commitments that make no sense for the business or for the culture. For the third consecutive year, Ad Age asked every Super Bowl advertiser with plans to air national in-game commercials about how they prioritize diversity and inclusion in the creation and production of their ads. This includes how they approached casting, diversity within the agencies they worked with, and the makeup of those working on the production. Ad Age will continue to track this data as more advertisers reveal their in-game ads. Some brands had very clear action steps and outlined ways they implemented these practices in the conceptual and production phases of their ads, but many, once again, declined to provide specific details on the makeup of their cast and those who worked on their ads. So now literally Ad Age is policing companies, trying to report on them and create stories out of the skin color and gender and sexual preferences of the people involved with creating the ads. Others, including Uber Eats, Volkswagen, E-Trade, State Farm, and Unilever, provided no specific details or instead offered generic DEI mission statements that essentially said they support the cause without disclosing any specific efforts. BetMGM noted that 50% of its production crew identified as a person of color, but declined to answer any specific questions. Anheuser-Busch InBev, which has ads for Bud Light, Budweiser, and Michelob Ultra, and Reese's did not respond to survey questions, only sending a list of credits for who worked on each of its spots. One of the biggest issues in attempting to measure diversity and track progress both in front of and behind the camera continues to involve guidelines that prevent requiring crew members or cast to disclose information about how they identify. Are you insane? You're telling people that they need to tell you, look, are you gay? Are you not that gay? Are you sort of gay? What is your skin color? All right, you're black, but are you 100% black? Did you have any family members that might have been of a different race? Literally, they're pushing cast members, crew members, anyone working on these projects to divulge personal information for what looks like an absolutely ridiculous reason. Multiple brands, including FanDuel and Oreo, cited these guidelines as hurdles to providing detailed data. Quote, as one might have predicted, what we've seen from the majority of Super Bowl spots that have been released or teased for 2024 is a rinse and repeat of a tired combination, said Ben Hens, Chief Creative Officer and co-owner of agency Happy Lucky. Quote, cast majority white male celebrities and place them in predominantly white Western storylines. Exactly what are these agencies supposed to be doing? Their whole purpose for being is to promote this agenda and to try to eliminate what white cast members, male celebrities? What is the goal? Of the 71 celebrities Ad Age confirmed will appear in Super Bowl commercials, 23 identify as female, while 48 identify as male, 16 are black, 4 are Hispanic, 2 are Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, and 5 or 2 or more races. This analysis does not include those who appear in the ad who are not celebrities. The majority of celebrities, 44 as of press time, starring in this year's big game commercials, are white. In terms of black people, this year's Super Bowl will feature A-listers including Mr. T, who stars in a Skechers ad promoting its hands-free slip-in shoes. Mr. T actually did a pretty funny Snickers ad a few years ago. He used a gun to shoot Snicker bars he was chasing down a speed walker. This is from the Daily Mail. It goes all the way back to 2008. Mr. T's Snickers advertisement axed after human rights groups complained of homophobia. There was really nothing gay or anything about this, but Mr. T did chase down a speed walker and shoot Snicker bars at him with a Snickers machine gun where he forced him to break into a sprint rather than to speed walk. Unfortunately, some people were offended by it, but it was pretty funny. The NFL's Born to Play commercial also features a cast largely from West Africa. But it was important for us to make sure the casted roles were filled with actors from the region. 400 of the cast members were Ghanaian, 9 were Nigerian, 1 was from South Africa. 2 members of the cast were female, said Marissa Solis, NFL Senior VP of Global Brand and Consumer Marketing. Solis said for the NFL's tackle bullying and mental game commercials, and 69% of background talent are people of color. BMW said 2 of its 3 commercials' acting leads were people of color, and the rest of our cast were a mix of white people and people of color. M&M's reported 81% of its on-camera principals were representative of diverse groups. The Candy Maker spot includes NFL players Dan Marino, Bruce Smith, Terrell Owens, and actress Scarlett Johansson. For its first Super Bowl commercial, the Foundation to Combat Anti-Semitism will feature lawyer and activist Dr. Clarence P. Jones, who assisted Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in drafting his I Have a Dream speech. The ad is made up of a cast that was 95% inclusive of people of color and LGBT+, according to the organization. Quote, "Our commitment to diversity goes beyond numbers. It extends to the creative process," a spokesperson for the foundation said. For this story, diversity was critical to the concept. The spot is about standing up to and speaking out against the growing violence and hate speech towards multiple communities based on religion, ethnicity, gender identification, and/or sexual preferences. Come Near, the organization behind the Jesus campaign, said 40% of its cast for its 15-second He Gets Us spot from agency Lerma are female. 60% are people of color, and 20% are LGBT+. The organization said it's not clear if any cast members have disabilities. They didn't really put them through any specific tests to see if they scored low enough to be considered disabled, apparently. For its 60-second ad, Come Near said 59% of cast members are female, 50% are people of color, 12% are LGBT, and 12% have a disability. It's so ridiculous. They're checking their cast members for disabilities. Skin tone inclusion in Super Bowl ads saw a spike in 2021 following the 2020 racial justice movement. But since then, there's been a slow decline in representation of people with darker skin tones. According to All Told, a self-described people-first responsible AI community that measures how people on screen were shown over the last 50 years along 6 identity dimensions: gender expression, age, skin tone, sexual orientation, body size, and visible disability. Notice we're pretty far into this article. None of this talks about commercial impacts like business impacts, either getting more distribution, more customers, more feedback from consumers. None of this talks about anything related to business whatsoever, even though even in that just 60-second ad they were talking about a moment ago, that's $14 million spent promoting whatever it is they wanted to promote. $14 million for a one-time expense. Quote, "As we've seen in 2020, there was an increased attention and focus on racial justice initiatives, on equity across the board, and increased commitment to DEI. And the 2021 Super Bowl is where we see that manifest in ads," said All Told CEO and co-founder Morgan Gregory, who was a former Google research executive, and since then we've seen a bit of a retreat. There was some backlash to companies that took a public stance on the racial injustice movement of 2020, and quote, "So you started to see a lot of organizations pull back on some of their more vocal commitments. And that is reflected in the ads," said Jarvis Sam, CEO and founder of multi-services DEI firm The Rainbow Disruption and Nike's former Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer who contributed commentary for the All Told report. Televisa Univision will add the Super Bowl Spanish language broadcast for the first time, and multiple brands such as Nissan, Audi, and Metro by T-Mobile have announced campaigns that will air only there. When it comes to the CBS broadcast, Doritos' ad is being hailed as one of the only commercials in this year's Super Bowl to authentically represent Hispanic culture through its storytelling. The Doritos spot features a high-speed chase by Hispanic actor Jenna Ortega's abuelas, that means grandmothers, quote, Dina and Mita, who are after the bag of Doritos Dinamitas that Hispanic actor Danny Ramirez picked up first in the grocery store. Quote, that one is interesting since the stars are the abuelas, said Isaac Mizrahi, president and CEO of multicultural agency Alma, noting how the product itself is true to the culture, being taquito-like rolled tortilla chips. Quote, that makes it more authentic and relevant. Quote, yes, there is some diversity casting from a celebrity-filled perspective, but almost nothing from storytelling, he said. This is curious since nearly 50% of all Gen Z consumers in America are from a diverse background. So most advertisers seem to continue to address a general market audience that does not exist anymore. Yes, the general market audience is all people in certain categorical situations. People don't buy or consume things only based on their skin color or sexual preference. We are all human beings. We have that in common. They're trying to get rid of that, but we still do have that in common. A recent Ad Age Harris Poll survey found younger generations will be looking for diversity in Super Bowl commercials this year, though there's a generational divide. According to the poll, baby boomers were most adverse to ads with a diversity theme, with just 14% approving, compared with 31% approval from Gen Zers and 32% approval from millennials. Only 19% of boomers favored putting people of color in the ads, and just 10% supported LGBT casting. That compares with 40% of Gen Zers and 33% of millennials who said they want to see people of color, with 23% of Gen Zers and 19% of millennials backing LGBT representation. No serious adults really want to see, quote, representation in anything. We just want to see things presented in an intelligent way that meet our interests. If you're trying to entertain us, entertain us. We don't care what the people look like. If you're trying to sell us something, tell us why we should buy it with our money. Don't try to show us people in commercials that look like us enjoying the product. Show us why we should enjoy the product. Outside of Doritos, rapper Ice Spice, who is Dominican and black, stars in starry Super Bowl ad Suits. Actor and Afro-Latina Gina Torres is featured in the star-studded ELF beauty commercial. Comedian Aubrey Plaza, who is Puerto Rican, stars in the Mountain Dew ad for its Baja Blast drink, and Argentine pro soccer player Lionel Messi fronts Michelob Ultra's beach set spot. The overwhelming majority of the talent on ads released so far are white, non-Hispanic, said Lizette Arsuaga, the co-president and CEO of DMI Consulting and co-founder of the Association of National Advertisers Alliance for Inclusive and Multicultural Marketing. She said this could hurt brands' abilities to connect with Gen Z and millennial audiences, a large cohort of which are Hispanic. What you don't see in this article, and I haven't seen it in any related articles, is any discussions about how any product or service suffered because it only featured certain people who are of a certain skin color, a certain gender, a certain sexual preference. It just doesn't exist. It's all nonsense. Google is so woke and so out of control, they hired a blind director to direct their Super Bowl commercial. Google has one of the most inclusive Super Bowl commercials. Its 60-second ad for its Pixel 8 phone was partially filmed with a camera obscured by petroleum jelly, a choice blind director Adam Morse made to transport people into the point of view of a blind character. The tech giant worked with agency Gut Miami, and the commercial, quote, Javier in Frame, tells the story of a blind man who falls in love and starts a family. But when you're dealing with a very specific point of view like this, one with a character who's blind, I think it's the only way to do it for it to become visceral and ultra emotive, Morse told Ad Age in an earlier interview. Why have any visuals at all if the guy's blind? Let us experience it the way a blind person would truly experience it. Morse added in a statement to Ad Age that, quote, this film is not a representation of how I see exactly, but more an impression of my perspective to put viewers in the head of the character and translate the visual experience in a visceral way. For me as a filmmaker, I'm excited and passionate about expressing impactful themes and executing those stories in an original style. It's absolutely crucial that we highlight accessibility features like guided frame because the technology empowers the global disability community and gives a way for users to express themselves and connect with others, more continued. When we do this, we better the mental health of so many individuals and elevate the disability community, going against the stigma. Okay, but if there's representation, I can see. So maybe you should have people that can see that are in your commercials. Or if you want to show an obscured view because you want to show the view of a person with sight disabilities, I can't really relate to that because I don't have sight disabilities. Sure, you can put petroleum jelly on a camera and get me to see things through that person's point of view, but that's not representation because that's not me. The conflict in the logic of this marketing and advertising with representation rather than just focusing on humanity is obvious. None of it makes sense. Lastly, LGBT representation is also lagging in Super Bowl commercials. From Ad Age's count, only 6 celebrities starring in this year's big game ads are openly part of the LGBT community. Quote, while the NFL proudly states football is for everyone, this year's advertisers are unfortunately sitting on the bench, GLAAD President and CEO Sarah Kate Ellis wrote in an email to Ad Age. Quote, advertising needs to play the long game to be business forward. 1 in 5 members of Gen Z are LGBT, and more than 50% are self-described allies, so Super Bowl advertisers are missing out on a major opportunity to attract the next generation of employees and consumers. Interesting how she puts employees first, because supposedly there's this big demand for employees to want to go work at a DEI-friendly company, and that's what they're going to select their job based on. But of course, consumers are second, because don't spend $7 million on a 30-second ad and expect to get a financial return. Your return is going to be the approval of these advertising agencies and organizations like GLAAD. According to the All Told report, which looked for LGBT romantic moments in Super Bowl ads, the first in-game ad to feature a gay or lesbian couple was in 2014. The Coca-Cola spot was praised for featuring 2 dads who take their daughter roller skating. Since then, only 10 big game commercials saw such LGBT representation, according to All Told. And this is what it all comes down to. Quote, the fundamental question in this is not necessarily what are consumers comfortable seeing on television. It really centers around how do advertisers think about buying power and spending power of some of these communities, and where are they comfortable making strategic investments in it to support diversification of the consumer that's watching it. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.